Hey guys, Jengar here. Welcome to today's tutorial. Today we are looking at situational awareness. You know, that little thing we do in War Thunder as to looking around and getting an idea of where the opponents are, where our targets are. And if you are running into these problems like being killed by people you don't see, being surprised in dogfights by a third opponent that you didn't really see coming, and have the feeling that people always sneak up on you and get the shot on you, get the opportunities there to shoot you down, then there is definitely something to do about that, and that is called developing your situational awareness to a point where you rarely get surprised anymore. I mean, one of the more frustrating things in War Thunder is being shot by an opponent you never saw coming. And if there is anything that you can improve rather quickly, it is exactly that. Because it is not so terribly difficult to look around a lot and to become proactive in how you're flying, in how you're climbing. I mean, I do know a lot of people who don't really pay attention, who tap out during climbing, who listen to music, who make phone calls during climbing and stuff like that. And that is just completely the wrong approach. I have to say, you have to be present, you have to be focused, you have to pay attention. That is the basics. And if you think that climbing is just climbing and a boring 5 minutes, then you're completely mistaken. Because in those 5 minutes, you take in the surroundings, you take in what there is to see, and you can do so much during that time that is useful for your positioning, for setting up your plane, and for getting a feel of the battlefield around you. Now, the first thing you want to do is look around and develop a tactical overview of the match. A tactical overview is important. You don't want to just be climbing, as I just said, and just do something else off screen and just do something in real life. You got to be focused on the match. You got to count opponents, for example. Look around you. Where are they concentrated? On which side of the map are they situated? Where are the bombers? Where are the fighters? How many did I see? Are there any attackers? And get a concentrated picture in your brain of where the opponents are, where the danger is, and where you can best set up your plane, and where you have the least amount of chance to be surprised. You don't want to be surprised in this game. You want to be in control. You want to get a complete picture of the developing battle, and that is why you have to pay attention while you're climbing and look around. Work on your situational awareness. Now, second thing that is very important is your allies. If you're not the perfect pilot yet, and nobody ever is, we're all developing still, but I mean, we have different skill levels, all of us, and some of us can handle ourselves better than others. If you are a person that can boom and zoom a little bit, not too good at dogfighting yet, not too great at camera work yet, then you want to make sure that you know where your allies are, because if you do get into a pickle, you know where to fly. You know exactly where you need to move to get some support. And, that is important in exit plans for a veteran pilot, but it is also just important for a more beginning pilot that needs support when things get difficult. And that is what you do while you climb. You look around, you know where the opponents are, you count them a little bit, you know, okay, I saw 12 opponents, I've seen them all, nobody's higher than me, I can boom and zoom. Or you can say like, okay, I didn't see 3 opponents, but here are 4 allies, and I will stay close to them and make sure that I try to work with them. And this way you can maximize your own performance at whatever level you're on, which is very important. Now the third thing is, and that is something you will learn over time, is to observe the battle and to develop your plan in your head from what you see. And then start to make decisions from that and maybe position your plane a little bit differently. Those are nuances, but that is something that will grow as well as you observe the battle. You don't want to be the first into the battle and get that one kill you so want. That will not improve you. You will have people above you. I see so many people who do that. Please don't do that. Don't rush in to get that first attacker kill or something. Lose your altitude for that and get your kill and be happy with that. No, you got to think bigger than that. You got to think 2, 3 opponents, and you got to think survival. That's what you got to think. And for survival, situational awareness is really, really vital. You got to know what's around you. both opponents, allies, and you gotta get a clear tactical overview of the battle so that you can make more educated decisions while you're flying. So this is vital. You do this with the C key, you just look around you, C key, then look around with the mouse, and just see what there is to see. There is nothing terribly skill-based around that, other than getting the experience with your plane, and the different kind of setups you can make with that, depending on what kind of plane you're flying. So it might also be, counted on which plane you're flying, to what kind of decisions you will make from the information that you see while you're looking around. So that's the first step of situational awareness. Second step is, while you are fighting and while you're getting into engagement, that you keep continuous scanning going during the match. Don't stop. I mean, the initial climb and all the information you get from that is a starting point, but after that, situation of course changes. And while you're fighting somebody, as I said in the beginning, you might easily get surprised by a third player who comes in to get the kill. This might be an ally that gets the drop on the opponent that you're trying to kill, but it might also be the other way around, where you might get into a pickle. And that's why you need, while you're maneuvering, you need to scan around you as well and make sure that you know what's going on around you. A very good way to do this, if you're, for example, a boomer zoomer, is during descent. When you lower yourself a little bit to get after somebody, you take times to make a swoop and look behind you, look above you for a few seconds. This is also very nicely done in stall maneuvers. While you're on the top of your stall, you have like 5 to 10 seconds where you're not very fast and you know what you're doing. You're flying with the keyboard, and then you can look around with the mouse and make sure that there's nobody around you trying to get the shot on you. You don't want those drops on you. Now, of course, you want to be scanning as well before, during, and after engagements. Immediately after you shoot somebody, you need to be scanning. And here, for example, we make a short scan behind me while I roll over to dive again on this guy. It just takes a few seconds, but it gives me so much extra information and the feeling that I'm safe, that I'm in a good place, and that there's nobody that is trying to get a drop on me while I'm fighting with that opponent. So yeah, during descent, before, during, and after engagement, keep scanning your surroundings, always be looking around, and in that sense you've got to be wary of a lack of focus in yourself or losing your focus. If you haven't been doing anything for 10 to 15 seconds, that is already enough for somebody to drop from 3,000 meters to 1,000 meters and get into a dangerous position for your survival. Somebody might be able to kill you in those 15 seconds. So be wary of that. Don't lose your focus. Keep concentration high and make sure that you continue to scan while you are setting your shots up and stuff like that. Sometimes you know that you're safe, sometimes you know that there's only 2 planes left and the other plane is 10 kilometers away. But 10 kilometers away can quickly become 3 kilometers away, and then somebody is almost upon you. So there is that. The third part that we're going into is the camera work during combat. So you have these different stages: the climbing, situational awareness, getting a tactical overview, then keeping your scans up during your fights, during descent, and after engagements, and then you're coming into how do you use your camera and your situational awareness during a fight, and can you actually use the camera work to do that. Ideally, you want to be able to look around as I do and many of the better pilots out there, which is you control your plane with your mouse, and once the system recognizes that you're flying the plane with your keyboard, should I say mouse? I meant keyboard. If you're flying the plane with your keyboard, you can then use your mouse to look around you and scan. And I would always advise you to test this in test flights to see how that works, because it feels a little bit weird in the beginning. But once you fly with the keyboard, and you got to make sure that with your hand size you can control all your surfaces, so your aileron, your elevator, your rudder, negative, positive pitch, all that stuff. that you can control that with one hand, or maybe with your thumb on a mouse with some mouse buttons, and that you can then use your mouse to look around you. That's how I do it. You move into that the moment you start moving with the keyboard. You can use the mouse for that purpose, and just go into a test flight and start to experiment with that and train. Don't start to try that during a match, because you will do worse than you did before, because you're so used to your setup. But you got to change your complete setup to make that work. But what it is definitely worth it. It will make you a better pilot, and it will get you more in range, depending on how your reflexes are and how your eyesight is, and you know how natural you are. But eventually you can become as good as the top pilots out there, like Adam and Define, and maybe me on a good day. But so it allows you to keep an eye on your opponent, to look around, switch view to another plane that is close to you, still flying after your opponent, switching your view back to that opponent, and it just allows you to counter enemy moves while you're looking at them. You're flying the plane while you're looking at them. You see what he does. You can anticipate his movements and capitalize on his mistakes. That's really what you want to do. And it only takes a second, and eventually we'll get the time for that. It feels like you will have a lot of time eventually to scan for possible other players coming in to trying to get the drop on you. And you will become a very versatile and skilled pilot that can use situational awareness both in the initial phases of the battle, while you're climbing, while you're descending, before, after and during engagements, and while you are flying into dogfights, and you will still be able to scan your surroundings. And it will rarely happen anymore that you get shot by a pilot you won't see, because that is definitely a thing you want to get out of. And the thing that helps you to get out of that kind of stuff is developing your situational awareness. It is not talked about a lot, but it is absolutely essential to become a good pilot in War Thunder. So I would definitely advise you to spend a lot of time on this and get this simple thing under control. If you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button, become part of this community. If you are already a subscriber, don't forget to like the video, do leave me a comment, and if you really feel like helping out today, make sure to share the video with your friends and let them know about the channel.